Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm Melissa Green, a technology accessibility training specialist with the Faculty Resource Center's Emerging Technology and Accessibility team. Our team works to ensure that all technology users, including those with disabilities, have a functional and accessible technology experience with the university's websites and the technologies we use for teaching, learning, and administrative functions. You can find more information about our efforts on our website at accessibility.ua.edu. This slide includes a picture of me. I have my webcam turned off, but I thought you might like to see who you're speaking with today. Today's session will cover advanced PDF accessibility techniques, such as working with scanned documents, tables, and lists. Most folks find it challenging to both watch and do hands-on work during a webinar. However, if you wish to try to follow along, you can access the exercise files that I'll be using today online via Box. I'm pasting the link you'll use to access those in the chat now. I'll also send you that link in my follow-up email following the webinar. I suggest watching today and then downloading the files to work with in conjunction with the webinar recording so you can work at your own pace. A quick moment for housekeeping. To improve the audio quality, I have muted everyone by default, but when you want to talk, just select the microphone icon in your Zoom controls to mute or unmute yourself. You can also choose to have your camera on or off. Please do keep your microphone muted when you are not speaking. And when I'm talking or sharing my screen, you can write in the chat box and let me know if you can't see or hear something. You're welcome to use that chat box throughout to talk amongst yourselves or to make comments or ask questions. I may not be able to keep an eye on it at all times, but I will come back to it at the end of the session for sure. The session is being recorded, and I will send you a link to that captioned recording via email in the next few days, along with links to resources shared during the session. That being said, we will go ahead and get started. I have a couple of PDFs open in Adobe Acrobat Pro DC. Before we get into any specifics, I'd like to show you what I've done to set up my Acrobat for accessibility work. I suggest that you do the same when you get ready to practice some of what I'm sharing today. I suggest that you change these settings at least while you're learning. So first, we'll enable the view of a couple different navigation panes, and we're going to do that via the View menu. So in the Acrobat toolbar at the top of the screen, I'm selecting View, and then Show Hide, and then Navigation Panes. And the two navigation panes that I'm going to show are the Order pane and the Tags pane. So I'll first select Order. And tags is actually already showing. I use that quite a bit, but I'll go through that process again. So View, Show Hide, Navigation Panes, Tags. So that will ensure that these two panes that we'll be using for our accessibility work today are visible. Next, we'll add shortcuts to the two primary tools Adobe Acrobat Pro DC offers to help content authors create accessible PDFs. And those two tools are the Accessibility Toolset, which provides access to the Accessibility Checker, full check, and the other is the Make Accessible action. So to add these shortcuts, we'll open up the Tools tab from the Acrobat toolbar at the top of the screen. So I'm doing that now, selecting Tools. And then I'm going to search for the two tools that I like to add shortcuts to. So the first is the Accessibility Toolset. So I'm typing the word Accessibility to search for Accessibility. And I'm now going to select Add to add that to my list of tools. Accessibility is added at the bottom of the list. I'm going to be using it quite a bit, so I'm going to click on it and drag it up to the top just to make it a little easier to see and access. The other tool that we'll be using today is the Make Accessible Action Wizard. So I'll need to search for and add Action Wizard. So I'll do that by starting to type Action Wizard. Here's the Action Wizard, and I'll select Add. And just like I did with the accessibility tool, I'm going to select it and drag it up to the top in order to make it easier for me to find. In our introductory PDF workshop, we emphasize creating PDFs that are accessible from the start. The accessibility of a PDF depends on the accessibility of the source document. Creating a source document that is accessible from the start or correcting the accessibility issues in the source document is much easier than repairing an inaccessible PDF. And what I mean by source document is whatever we generated the PDF from. So that could be a Microsoft Word document, a Microsoft PowerPoint presentation, an InDesign file, and so on. It's much easier to create these source files with accessibility in mind than it is to try to fix or remediate an inaccessible PDF. However, that isn't always possible. If the original source document is not available, we'll need to add accessibility features to the PDF using Acrobat Pro DC. I have one of the exercise files open. It's the one titled Scanned Document, and the Tags panel is expanded. Although there's a bit more to it than this, when people talk about accessible PDF files, they're usually referring to PDF files that have searchable, selectable text and tags. Tags are the basis of an accessible PDF file. They indicate the structure of the document, communicate the order in which items should be read, and determine exactly which items will be read. So this scanned document is pretty typical of a scanned document in that it contains an image of text. So I can tell that in a few different ways, the easiest of which is to attempt to select some text with my mouse, and I'm not able to do that. So it has an image of text rather than actual text, and it's not tagged. And we can see that it's not tagged because in the tags panel, we're told no tags available. I'm switching to another one of the exercise files. This one's called Lists. And for some reason, my tags panel isn't showing with this document open. So I'm going to go ahead and go through those steps again. View, Show Hide, Navigation Pane, Order, View, Show Hide, Navigation Pane, Tags. This is the Lists exercise file, the exercise file titled Lists. We're going to be working with it in a few minutes when we look at tagging for lists. We want to contrast the scanned document, which has no tags and no selectable text, with this document that has tags visible in the tag panel. So the H1, H2, L, P, figure, those are all tags, as well as selectable text. So I can use my mouse to select a letter or a line or a paragraph, and I'm able to do that. One thing I make a point to do when I anticipate having to make quite a few accessibility changes to an existing PDF is to save a copy of that file before I get started. If the work gets quite complicated, I might even save at 5 or 10-minute intervals along the way. There are a few things worse than building out a tag tree or setting reading order from scratch than accidentally overwriting your work. So my suggestion is to save copies early and often. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and save a copy of this first document that we'll work with, the scanned document. So I'm doing that now by selecting File, Save As, and then I'll just save this, let's see, on my desktop as scanned document 1. So now I've preserved my original in case I need to go back a step or two. The tool that I prefer to start my accessibility work with when working with a scanned document is the Make Accessible Action Wizard. So that is one of the tools that I added a shortcut to. So I'm going to select that shortcut now, Action Wizard. And then from the list of available actions that's shown in the right sidebar, I'm selecting Make Accessible. The Make Accessible action walks you through the steps required to make a PDF accessible. It prompts you to address accessibility issues such as a missing document description or title. It looks for common elements that need further action, such as scanned text rather than actual text, the presence of form fields that need to be labeled, tables that might need to be tagged, images that might need alternative text. We're going to use the action now to enhance the accessibility of this scanned PDF file. So to begin this process, I'll select the blue Start button and then follow the prompts. The first thing I'm prompted to do is provide a title. Even though this document has what looks like a title, it doesn't have a title in the metadata or the properties of the document. And this is important because really for every user, but particularly for an assistive technology user, the file name scanned document 1 isn't particularly descriptive. It's better to give a title that's truly reflective of the contents of the document. So I'm going to uncheck the Leave As Is box and type in a title. So a more appropriate title for this document might be Acrobat Pro DC PDF Accessibility, the basics. That's the only thing that's required in these properties. So after typing that in, I'll go ahead and select OK. And the wizard will take me to the next applicable step for this document. This is the step where Acrobat attempts to recognize actual text or create actual text from the scanned image of text. So we need to tell Acrobat what the document language is. In this case, the document is entirely in English, US English. If the document were in multiple languages, I would pick the one that's used the most in the document. So in this case, English US is appropriate. We want the output to be editable text and images because that's going to give us our actual text. I'm not going to make any changes to the DPI. I'll select OK, and Acrobat will perform OCR, or optical character recognition, to convert the image of text to real text. Next, Acrobat will ask, is this document intended to be used as a fillable form? If, let's say, this original document, which was created in Microsoft Word and then printed and then scanned, if I had created blanks in the form where people were to or created as a form with blanks where people were to provide some information or fill in a response, I would select yes here. Acrobat will then attempt to figure out where I wanted a fillable form field to be and create those form fields for me. In this case, there's not any form fields in the document, so I'm going to say no, skip this step. This is a good time to plug the fact that we have an upcoming PDF form accessibility workshop and webinar, information about which you can find on the accessibility website or the UA events calendar. But for now, it's not a form. I'll say no, skip this step. Here we set the reading language. Screen readers, the assistive technology that's used by people who are blind, people who are low vision, and some who learn better or prefer to learn by hearing information read aloud. Screen readers can load different pronunciation rules or reading order based on the reading language. So for example, both table, T-A-B-L-E in US English, and table in French are spelled the same way, but a screen reader might pronounce them differently based on the reading language of the document. So again, this document is entirely in English, so we can select English. It is possible to tag different regions of a document in different languages. We're not going to do that during today's session, but know that that's an option. So that if, for example, a page of this document had greetings or welcome or hello in different languages, you could tag each of those accordingly so it would be pronounced correctly. So I'm going to select English and then OK. The wizard is just continuing to work through these steps that are shown in the right sidebar. Next, Acrobat will detect the figures in the document and indicate any figures that lack alternate text. So alternate text is a textual description of the content or function of an image. I'll say OK. There's no figures with missing alternate text in the document. I'll say OK. And then the final step in the Make Accessible action is to run an accessibility check. And this is something that we did in the intro workshop. The accessibility check looks for 30 some odd qualities, or checks your document against 30 some odd rules, and indicates where you've passed, where you might need to do a manual check, or where you failed and need to make some accessibility changes. So I'm going to go ahead and run the accessibility check for this particular document by selecting Start Checking. So in my results, I have 2 issues that pertain to the document as a whole, and those are the things that will always require manual review: logical reading order and color contrast. And additionally, I have an issue with a heading that isn't nested appropriately. And this is a good sort of opportunity to say that the Make Accessible action wizard may not make your document completely accessible. It's really just to sort of get the process underway, so that you have actual text and tags to work with. So this PDF still isn't fully accessible. We haven't done those manual checks yet. The reading order check will reveal this issue here with the heading that we need to change. But this should give you a good idea of how the tool works. Whether you're working with a scanned document or one you've created from a source file, you'll probably need to manually add tags at some point. So we're going to take a look at that now. I'm going to close this scanned document and open up another one of the exercise files. In this case, a file titled Tagged PDF. I'm going to save a copy. Remember, I like to do that as I'm doing accessibility work, so I'll do Save As. And then on my desktop, I'm going to call this Tagged PDF 1. I have a backup just in case. When you perform an accessibility full check on this document, it fails the tagged PDF check, among other things. So I'll just do that really quickly. It's a short document. So I'm selecting the accessibility toolset, then full check from the accessibility toolset, running the full check. There's a lot of stuff going on in this document, many issues found. But the one that I'm most interested in at this point is tagged PDF failed. So let's investigate this issue by opening the Tags panel from the navigation pane. So in the navigation pane here on the left, I'm selecting Tags to open up the Tags panel, and sure enough, there are no tags present in this particular document. And that's why it's been flagged by the accessibility checker. To add tags, we are going to use the Reading Order tool. You can open this tool from the Order panel. So the Order panel is one of the panels that we chose to show. So I'm going to select the Order panel. Then I'm going to select the Options button within the Order panel, which I'm doing now. If you hover over it, you'll get the tooltip reading options. It's represented by an icon that kind of looks like bulleted text, or maybe a document with text and images. So I'm selecting that and choosing Show Reading Order Panel. And the Reading Order panel opens on the screen. There are several tools available within Adobe Acrobat Pro DC to set and repair the tag structure of a document. And these include the reading order tool, the order panel that we just opened the reading order tool from, the tags panel, and the content panel. The reading order tool, the one that's currently visible on the screen, provides the easiest visual tool for tagging and setting order. And it can be used to quickly determine whether basic structural tags and reading order have been applied to a document. However, it's limited in the types of structural elements that you can set and the types of tags that you can set, which is why you need to use a combination of tools when doing accessibility work. When order changes are made in this reading order tool or in the order panel, those changes should also be made in the tags panel and the content panel automatically. So if you change it here, it should automatically be updated in the tags and content panels. Notice that I'm hedging a little bit using the word should. They should generally be synchronized, although they can get unsynchronized. This is probably one of the more frustrating aspects of PDF accessibility work, that you need to sort of do the work in a number of different places, and a change you make in one place isn't necessarily automatically applied in another. All I can say about that is that Adobe is aware that this is an issue, and apparently is pushing out product changes to make these synchronize up a little bit more. So I feel your pain. I'll just put it that way. So Adobe's Read Out Loud tool, which is a text-to-speech tool that reads aloud the text in a PDF, uses the content order found in this order panel. That's the order in which it will read the text aloud. But assistive technologies such as screen readers follow the order found in the tags panel. And this is why when checking the logical reading order in a PDF for accessibility purposes, you need to do so using the tags panel. So that's sort of a quick overview of all the various different tools you might work with when tagging and working on reading order. We've got the reading order tool open. Let me switch to a document that has some tags in it so you can see how that looks when viewed with the reading order tool. Right now, remember, this particular document doesn't have any tags. So I'm switching back over to the sample file titled Lists. And we've got the reading order panel showing. Just bring that back up again. So we've got some tags here. A figure tag, not all of them. Oh, here we go. Sorry. If you noticed, I was looking for something that I wasn't seeing. The Show Page Content Groups box was unchecked in the reading order dialog. I tend to toggle that on and off a little bit. If you don't see highlighted rectangles in the reading order tool, it might be that the Show Page Content Groups button is unchecked. Just a heads up. The reading order tool displays the tagged page content in shaded rectangles. Each rectangle is numbered and indicates the reading order of the item on the page. So the reading order of the items on this page would start with, first, classification and labeling taxonomy. Second, this information affects. Third, and this is why I end up toggling things on and off a bit, it's hard to read, Contoso, executive and staff, and so on. So this reading order pane can show the reading order, or, and I'm changing this in the reading order pane by selecting structure types, it can show the tag type of the items on the page. So this is what it looks like when you view a document that has tags in it with the reading order panel. I'm going to close out of this, go back to our tagged PDF, which does not have the tags available. This is the document to which we need to add tags. To ensure greater accuracy in your tagging, it's best to enable the single page view. And this will prevent Acrobat from showing multiple pages at once and help you avoid creating tags that span multiple pages. So to enable your single page view, you'll select View from the toolbar at the top of the screen, then select Page Display, and then select Single Page View. Something else you might find yourself doing is using Zoom to zoom in and out of the page. By default, when doing accessibility work, I usually start with the page level zoom. So I'm going to do that now by going to View, Zoom, Zoom to page level. In this example, the first piece of content in the document is a piece of text with a large font size, all capital letters, and a blue background that makes it stand out. This text that reads brand loyalty is visually presenting itself as a heading, but it hasn't been tagged as such. To tag this text as a heading, we will use the reading order panel. So I'm going to show you actually a couple different ways to open up the reading order panel. I've been opening it by clicking on the order pane in the left sidebar, and then from the options, choosing Show Reading Order Panel. There's also a keyboard shortcut for this. That means you don't have to click back and forth between the tags pane and the reading order pane. That keyboard shortcut is Shift Control U, and that will open up the reading order pane. So that's open now. So we need to tag this brand loyalty text that is visually presenting itself as a heading as an actual heading. In order to do that, we can double click on the text to highlight it. And there's a blue background, so it's somewhat difficult to see, but once the text has been selected, it will be outlined in blue rectangles. Once the text is selected or highlighted, we can select Heading 1 from the reading order panel. And we can see in our tags panel or tag tree that the heading level 1 has been added. Another way to tag an element, besides double clicking on it, is to use your mouse to draw a rectangle around the text. So I'm going to do that to tag the first paragraph of text here. So I'm using my mouse to click and drag, highlight that text, and then I'm going to tag it as text/paragraph. Now I'm going to do the same for the second paragraph. Highlight it or select it with the mouse, tag it as text/paragraph. Most elements in our documents will be tagged this way as text/paragraph. The next thing that we encounter in the reading order of the document is some text, a trusted brand. It's visually presenting itself as a heading using blue text and white space. The font size is a little smaller, and it's related to heading 1 that we tagged. So heading 2 is an appropriate tag because it's sort of a subheading of brand loyalty. So I'll use the mouse to select a trusted brand and tag it as heading 2. I'm tagging the text beneath the H2 element, a trusted brand, as a paragraph. Below that follows a pie chart. So again, I'm going to select that with my mouse and tag it as a figure. I'll be prompted to enter some alternate text or a textual description of the figure, or at least told that there is no alternate text. I'm not going to do that at this point, but that's supposed to happen. The next thing is a little bit more text. So I'm going to select that with the mouse and tag that as text paragraph. And then the final piece of content on the page is a divider bar. This divider bar is decorative. To prevent screen readers from announcing it, we never add it to the tags tree. So we don't need to select this divider bar and tag it as anything. We just leave it out of the tag tree entirely. But if you do see an object in your tag tree that it's decorative, then you should highlight it and change the tag type to background/artifact. So let's say instead of this pie chart including important information, let's just say it's a stock photo that's purely decorative. We could tell assistive technology, tell a screen reader to ignore it by highlighting it and then selecting background or artifact. After adding tags, we'll go back to the tags panel and take a look at the results to ensure that all the tags we wanted to add to the document have been added. If we save this document and run the accessibility checker again, it should now pass the check for the presence of tags. I might have to close it first. So File, I've saved it. I'm going to close it, open it again. In the accessibility toolset, I'm selecting full check. Oh, tag PDF failed. I'm not sure why it still says that. Probably because the properties haven't been updated. I'm going to select fix. Yeah. And so it just checked again to make sure tags were present and changed that information in the document properties accordingly. So that is the process for manually adding tags, which you may need to do if you are tagging a document from scratch, or if you use the Make Accessible Action Wizard or the auto tag feature in the accessibility toolset to tag your document. You may need to change some of the tags that are applied, remove them, or add additional tags. We're now going to turn our attention to two types of tags that commonly appear in the PDFs we work with at UA, and that's list tags and table tags. I'm going to open up the sample file titled Lists and save a copy of that. I'm going to put it on my desktop, title it Lists 1, and save. And now I'm going to open the tags panel. In this document, there is one list with tags and one list without tags. So the first list in the document, under the heading that reads "This information affects," has been tagged correctly using an L tag. So when I select that L tag in the tags pane, the corresponding content, the list itself, is highlighted with a blue rectangle. I'm expanding that L tag, that list tag, so we can look at in more detail some of the tagging involved in this list. The L tag contains LI tags, which represent the list item elements. I'm going to select each list item tag to highlight each item in the list. The first item in the list represented by an LI tag, the second item in the list represented by an LI tag, and the third item in the list represented in the LI tag. When we expand each of the LI tags, the list item tags, there are label tags, LBL, which represent the bullet symbols, and L body tags, list body tags, which represent the text itself. So the list is properly tagged as a list overall. Each item in the list is tagged as a list item. The label for each item in the list is tagged as a label, and the actual text of each list item is tagged as list body. But the second list in the document that begins under the examples heading has not been tagged properly. So it actually is currently tagged as paragraph text. Each item in the list, there's 3 examples, each has been tagged as paragraph. To make it accessible, we'll need to make some manual adjustments. So let's take a look at how to do that. So first, I'm going to select the H2 tag that represents the text examples. The easiest way to create a new tag from the tags panel is to select the tag preceding where you'd like the new tag to be added, and then open the context menu by right-clicking or control-clicking and selecting New Tag. So I want to create this new list tag following the heading for examples. So I've right-clicked on H2, the heading for examples, and I'm now choosing New Tag. The type of tag that I'd like to create is List. So I'll choose that from the Type drop-down menu and then select OK. So the L, or list tag, has been added following the H2 tag. Next, I'll need to create 3 list item tags to represent the 3 items in the list. So I'm going to go to the L tag I just made, open the context menu, and select New Tag. This time, rather than list, I'm going to select list item and then select OK. I'm going to do that 3 times to create 3 list item tags because we have 3 items in the list. 2, and then 3. Next, I'm going to nest these list item tags beneath the list tag I created earlier by clicking and dragging them. And this essentially would tell a screen reader that these are the 3 items that comprise this list. So I'm using my mouse to select the 3 list item tags, and I'm dragging them sort of under the list tag hierarchically. So they are now indented or nested under the list tag. Next, we'll need to separate each list item number from the text beside it. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the reading order tool to do that. I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut for that because I want to keep the tags panel open. And that keyboard shortcut, again, was Shift-Control-U. Got the reading order panel open. I'm going to toggle off show page content groups just to make the text I'm trying to work with a little easier to see. What I'd like to do is select just the number 1 to indicate that it is the label. So I'm going to do that with my mouse, select the item 1, and I need to tag this as a label. You may notice, though, that in the reading order panel, there is not an option for label. You might remember that I said sometimes that the reading order panel isn't as advanced as the options you'll get in the tags panel. And this is one of those cases. So I'm going to tag this as text/paragraph in order to create a tag, and then we're going to go in and change that tag to the appropriate tag momentarily. So I'm selecting text paragraph to create the tag, and I'll do the same for the numbers 2 and the number 3. So select 2. This can be challenging sometimes to get just the right amount selected. Come on. I actually like it when I have a little bit of trouble in a workshop because it proves that this is challenging. Okay, this is an actual live demo and not staged. So text paragraph for 2. And text paragraph for 3. So again, we know that those aren't the appropriate tags. We need to tag them as labels, but we chose text paragraph just to create a tag that we'll go back and modify in a moment. Okay, so our tags panel's open. I'm going to highlight the paragraph tag or select the paragraph tag for the first item number in the list. Open the context menu by right-clicking and select Properties. And this is where we have the ability to change this to the appropriate tag, which is label. is a label. Whoops. From the type drop-down list, I'm selecting label and then close. I'll do the same for the other two labels. Just select the paragraph tag, choose properties. From the type drop-down menu, select label, then close. Select the paragraph tag, right-click to open the properties. From the type drop-down menu, select label, and then choose close. So now we've appropriately labeled the 1, the 2, and the 3 as labels. And those label tags, again, are used to represent distinguishing information such as an item number or a bullet character. For the list body items, we need to change the tag type to list item body. So we will follow a similar process to what we did with the labels. We'll select the existing paragraph tag, right-click, choose Properties, and change the tag to List Item Body. Then choose Close, and I'll repeat that process for the other two items on the list. Right-click, Properties, type, List Item Body, close. Right-click, Properties, type, List Item Body, close. So now we've created the label and list item body tags. We need to nest them under the list item tags we created earlier. We should have one pair of label and list item body tags for each list item tag. So I'm going to do that by selecting and clicking and dragging. So I'm expanded my L tag so I can see the 3 list items. I'm going to first move the label and list body tags up under the first list item, and then do the same for the others. So select them, click and drag. Oops. I get the hierarchy just right. Come on. I'll do this one first. Scooch over. Let me move them back. There we go. Okay, so this list is now accessible. The list as a whole is tagged as a list. Each list item is tagged as a list item. And within each list item, we have a label and a list body tag. Again, if you are using any of the auto tagging features, you probably won't have to build this entire list from scratch. However, it's helpful to see sort of the appropriate tags of which a list is comprised so that if when doing your accessibility review there are changes that need to be made, you have an idea of what's required. So I mentioned that we were going to look at sort of 2 common types of tags that I see a lot in documents at UA. One was lists, the others is tables. So let's turn our attention now to tables and their tags. I'm opening up the exercise file titled Tables. In this document, there is a table with tags. So I'm going to open up the tags panel so we can see the table tag. So the table itself has been tagged as a table, but it's still not accessible. And that's because even though the table as a whole is tagged, the individual cells aren't differentiated. We haven't differentiated the header cells from the data cells. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on or show the reading order tool to show you what that looks like. So we're going to do the shortcut again, Shift Control U. Reading order tool is on. Table is selected. What I'd like to do is open up the table editor. I'm just going to reselect this table with my mouse to see if I can get that table editor option to appear. Come on. Not sure why. Let me start over. Sorry about that. Opening up the tables PDF. Going to open up the reading order tool. Select the table. Okay, there we go. And now I have the ability to open up the table editor. So in the reading order tool, I'm selecting table editor. We need to, with our tagging, indicate which of these cells includes data and which of the cells is a header or describes the contents. So this particular table, if you're a visual user, you can see that it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns with 5 column headings representing months: January, February, March, April, May. There are also 4 rows of data with 4 row headers: US, Europe, Asia, gross profit. But right now, everything in this table is tagged as data. It's the row headers and the column headers are not designated as headers. So we're going to open up the context menu on the table by right-clicking or control-clicking and choosing Table Editor Options. In this dialog that appears, we want to select the Show Cell Type checkbox and then select OK. And that's going to show us cell by cell what each cell is tagged as. And we can see that every cell is labeled TD for table data. So we're going to change that. I'm going to open the context menu on the first header cell by right-clicking and then choosing Table Cell Properties. So this is the header cell that reads January. In the dialog, we want to change the type from data cell to header cell and define its scope as column because this cell serves as a header for a column. After making that change, we can then select OK. And we'll see that visually the cell type is changed to TH for table header. There's also some color coding that accompanies that. I'm going to quickly do the same thing for the rest of the column headers in the table. So right-click, choose Table Cell Properties, choose Header Cell, Column. Right-click, Table Cell Properties, Header Cell, Column. Right-click, Header Cell, Column. Right-click, Header Cell, Column. Because this table also includes row headers, we'll need to do the same. So I will right-click on the first row header, US, select Table Cell Properties, select Header Cell as the type, but this time for the scope, rather than column, we'll select row to indicate that this is a row header. We'll do the same for the other row headers. Table Cell Properties, Header Cell, Scope, Row. Table Cell Properties, Header Cell, Scope, Row. Table Cell Properties is the last one. Header Cell, Scope, Row. Okay. So notice how the cell types for the header rows have changed from TD to TH. That now means that those are header cells and they'll be associated with the data cells beneath them. And that will mean that that information will be announced by screen readers. The finished product is that the row and column header cells are indicated with the table header tags, and that, again, differentiates them from the data cells in the table. It's about 10 till noon. I'm going to stop here. I know this is a lot of information. I hope that you found this useful and that you won't hesitate to reach out to us if we can help you put what you learned into practice. You can contact our team in a couple different ways. I'm going to paste our contact information into the chat box via our website at accessibility.ua.edu, via email at accessibility@ua.edu. That's all I have. At this point, I'm wondering if anyone has questions or thoughts they'd like to share. You can do that by using the chat box or unmuting your microphone and asking verbally. It doesn't appear that anyone is asking a question or sharing a thought with the mic or in the chat box. Before I end the meeting, I just want to point out that today's session was part of a series of PDF accessibility workshops and webinars. You can find the list of those on the UA events calendar or on the accessibility website. Today was scanned documents, tables, and lists. The next offering will be forms. So we'll create accessible PDF forms with fillable form fields. And then the final offering in the series will be creating accessible PDFs with Adobe InDesign. Thank you all so much for your time and attention today. Please let us know if we can help. Have a great day.